Jesse and Danny, I'm so excited to have you here today. This season has been a roller coaster and we're only 5 episodes in. What has it been like reliving everything on screen?
Well, it's hard. You film it, you fight about it, talk about it, and then because of our reunion, we got to see everything, and now for a third time, we get to relive it as it's live.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Those first couple episodes, especially episode 2, was really hard to watch with the Jax and Brittany stuff.
Yeah.
It was dark. I was like, isn't this supposed to be like a guilty pleasure for people, and whatever? And I was like, holy cow. But yeah, it's interesting to watch it back and kind of have to relive those moments over and over.
And I kind of knew season 1 what the arc of the storyline was with Michelle and I. I had no clue in this season, and then to watch back and see what other people are saying about you and talking about, and it's interesting to see people's take on different scenes and stuff.
Jesse, one of the funniest moments in this week's episode was you trying to hitchhike on the side of the road while Luke was trying to fix the bus.
Yeah.
Jesse should try to fix it. Tell him to get under that hood.
All right, let's walk it out. Let's walk it.
No, you can't walk. You can stay ready for some bars.
This thing is not going to drive us in.
I'm loving the dynamic between you two. Did this friendship take you by surprise?
No, actually, Chris and I had no relationship after the end of season 1, and then Luke had continued to try to kind of break his way into the group of guys, and we had a bunch of conversations together, and then Kristen, when I was in New York last May, had sent me the most gracious text message after seeing, I think, the episode of Us by the Fireplace when we were both crying.
Mm-hmm.
And from that point on, my relationship with Kristen started to grow, and in turn, my relationship with Luke. And Luke's a great. He kind of lets everything roll off his back. He doesn't pay much attention to the drama, and he has a really good sense of humor. So we do have a lot of fun together and a lot of laughs together.
Danny, you made it to the trip in this week's episode, but you only lasted so long before you crashed in bed, leaving everyone to ask questions about your drinking.
It's incredible. Where the hell is Danny? Napping. Good for him.
We all know that he was drunk. He drove all the way here to go to sleep. That makes no sense to me.
No, because that's not what happened.
I think though that she knows
she's
how
like,
much he's
he's
drinking.
so sleeping.
I'm not dumb. Just say like he had too much to drink at the winery. He needs to go sleep.
Is there anything that was said while you were asleep that you'd like to clear up now?
No. I had drove back at 11 o'clock, didn't get back till 1 in the morning, was up at 5:30 with 3 kids, getting them ready before the nanny got there, and then went and did a job, and came back ready to, have some fun, and with the group, and
it was hot.
And it was
hot that day.
And it was hot. And then coming back, regardless, I don't know if you know this, but wine makes you kind of sleepy.
Not me. It
No,
just gives
no.
me life.
I would have been taking a nap regardless. It probably wouldn't have been that long because I was obviously intoxicated. But
you could have taken your boots off at the very least.
I could have. But it's something that you just have to roll off your back and just say some people turned a molehill into a mountain.
I didn't understand why people were making such a big deal of you cutting loose on a rare weekend away.
Same. And, thinking, well, we're all tired. No, you're not. You don't have kids. You have no idea. And I have apologized to everybody before I had kids saying, what do you mean you can't do this? What do you mean you can't do that? What do you mean you're tired? Then you have kids and you actually realize, how demanding it is and how tiring it can be. So, my biggest regret with that is just not being able to be there to defend myself and have Nia having to have to do that on my behalf. So again, I think it was kind of petty in the sense, and people just trying to cause drama and, like I said, turn a molehill into a mountain.
Jesse, you and Michelle really got into it at the winery. Why did you call her a hooker, even though you yourself didn't believe that rumor.
I thought you were coming here to try to apologize.
Apologize to who?
Look at you. You're a disaster.
And you're the hooker, so it's fine.
I'm not doing this.
What just happened?
Michelle has this way of triggering me, and there are certain trigger words for sure. You know, saying stuff like disaster, loser, things like that. She just has a way of getting under my skin. And remember, this was a year ago. And at this point, we are 2 months since she moved out, a month after she filed for divorce. And we were at this point where we were just tit for tat. And it was like, I win, you win, I win. And we were just kind of one-upping each other. And, you know, I just wasn't in the right mindset at that point to, you know, really take accountability and apologize. And I regret a lot of things about that experience. Like, I wish to this day that I had pulled Michelle aside instead of giving her the white flag, that I pulled her aside and said, let's get this taken care of before we go into the house. I just tried to push it all to the side and hope for the best. And, Michelle was just so resentful and so angry, and it was so new, our separation, the publicly separated, we've been separated for a while, that, it just was bad timing to have that conversation, and just became very reactive, which is something I'd worked on. You saw how reactive I was with Kristen and Luke and everybody in season 1. It was something I really worked on, that only with Michelle she can pull that out of me. So.
Right. Well, after a season of denial, Michelle sort of finally admitted that she had ventured outside of your marriage.
Michelle is trying to create a narrative that I am the bad guy and this is all my fault, to deflect from the truth. Michelle cheated on me and then gave up on our marriage after she cheated.
Yeah.
Did you not admit it?
Yes, I did admit kissing somebody.
Did you? Or did
You're
you
a
not?
of sh.
Was it validating for you to hear on camera?
She had told me before we started filming the truth, and she refused to take, the same accountability and admit it. And I think even in that scene tonight, you see, like, she still doesn't really want to admit it. It wasn't validating because it still hurts. It hurt when I first found out about it, and it hurts every time you think about it. And, I think you'll see as the season goes on, there'll be a lot of questions about, was it one person? Was it two people? Was Aaron involved? And I think you'll see it play out throughout the course of season 2.
The Santa Barbara trip kicks off with Jax sending her some wild messages.
He knew that we were going on this trip, and I'm like, who told him we were going on this trip?
I told Jax we were going to Santa Barbara.
Why?
I talk to him every day.
Jesse, come on. That's just going to make him upset.
We don't want to tempt him to check out early because he can check out whenever he wants.
What did you guys think of that? And Jesse, did you regret telling him about the trip?
I didn't regret telling him. Like, I would check in with him as Danny did also, check in with him almost every single day and just give him words of affirmation, so that he would stay in there. I was very angry when we, and you'll see it come out in season 2, the Brits bar takeover that everybody knows about. I was very angry. I didn't know about that going in, that I knew it would trigger Jax. And, Santa Barbara is another situation where the last thing you want is him finding out through social media that we're all away, because at least if you tell him, he'll deal with it, might not deal with it the right way, but he'll deal with it immediately. Whereas if he found out, he had days and days and days of, like, blaming his friends, blaming his ex-wife, I thought it was important to be upfront with him, and just be truthful, because he is my friend.
It's clear that both of you are there for Jax amid his sobriety journey. How's he doing now?
I'm very proud of him, of coming out and publicly and talking about his addictions and staying true to his sobriety for as long as he has. It seems like he's finally making the sacrifices and making the choices to better himself for himself and Cruz, of course.
Yeah, I think he's 170-ish days sober. He's really focused on physical health, mental health, and I've seen I've seen small little changes, like if I was to text Jax and be like, hey, I need you to help me take my Christmas tree out of the house, he was there in 15 minutes. And I know he's had the same sort of relationship with Luke recently as well, where, you know, what can I do to help? You know, he's really trying to work on himself, work on his friendships, and then eventually, I think, work on his relationship with Brittany.
I want to talk about reunion seating. Jesse, you are seated next to Jax in the second seat. Did you feel that was an appropriate space for you?
Honestly, until I walked on that stage, I had no idea, and I think I think at the end of the day, it's very difficult. We have couples, we have individuals, we have certain people that weren't getting along. So I don't really put a lot of, you know, gravitas towards the seating arrangement. But
Danny, you're next to Nia, second from the end. How did you feel about that space?
I mean, I'm just blown away how it got so much attention. I didn't know of all these reunions. This was my first one doing it. I didn't know like every seat means something, and now the fans, you know, do all that. So I was fine. I sat where my wife told me to sit.
Smart man.
Exactly.
And did you feel better or worse having gone through the reunion?
you know, I think you're gonna see, for the most part, resolution. You're gonna see a lot of conversations, but it was a long day, and you're gonna have a lot of episodes to actually watch it unfold. And I think we have a long road of season 2 before we get to the reunion. So you have to see how the season plays out before you see how the reunion plays out.